Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to part two of our podcast with the Honorable Dr. Julius Garvey. Before we went on a little break, we're talking about neocolonialism in Africa and all those. So I'm going to let Dr. Garvey to continue where he stopped, so that we can, so that you don't lose anything, because it's very exciting, very interesting now. So, Dr. Garvey, please continue.
Well, I think it's important to understand um, not only what we're up against, but who we are.
Right.
I think if we have that understanding, then we can really go forward in terms of constructing our societies for ourselves.
Right.
And it's important, therefore, to go back in history. Because if you don't know your history, then you're going to
don't know where you're going.
Not only that, but you're going to keep
Keep
repeating
repeating. That's right.
And this is the problem, you see. We have been miseducated, that's where we left off, by our colonizers
Right.
Over the years, who have rewritten our history.
Right.
Now, if we look at what is happening today, I think we can definitely see that the West, which is Europe and America, their civilization model is declining. I think we can see that certainly the Chinese civilization model is on the rise.
Right.
I think we can see the Indian civilization model is on the rise.
Right.
We do not see an African civilization model on the rise.
Right.
The problem is that Africa has forgotten its origins and its civilization.
That's right. It is the miseducation that you talked about.
Precisely right.
It is the
So we come
miseducation.
back to that. People such
Right.
as Sheikh Anta Diop has tried to remind us. He has
Right.
excavated the science. A lot of it has been European science,
Right.
which we're grateful for
Right.
in some sense. But again, to show that we're the original people in
Right.
terms of African people. We had the original civilizations, and we have the original languages. A lot
That's
of people
correct.
don't understand it, but
That is
the
correct.
first people to speak anything and to communicate were African
African.
people.
Yes.
There were no such thing. Well, first of all, we existed for 200,000 years ago,
Right.
approximately.
Right.
200,000, 150, 200,000.
Right. Right.
There was no such thing as a European that has been found archaeologically
Right.
for more than 15, 20,000 years ago.
Right.
And then their entry into civilization, shall we say, or into the commerce of different nations
Right.
took place, barely 2,500 years ago,
Right.
when civilizations such as Kemet and Nubia and Kush and Ethiopia were in existence for thousands of years,
Right.
going back to 10,000 BC.
Correct.
And so were civilizations in India, and so were civilizations
Right.
in China,
Mhm.
and so were civilizations in the Americas,
Right.
the Olmecs and so on and so
Right.
forth. So European so-called civilization is a very recent thing.
Right.
Then we now have to define civilization, because that's one of the problems that we have,
Right.
is that we're using European languages,
Right.
and Europeans have defined certain things,
Right.
and we use those definitions.
Right.
And those definitions are definitions from the perspective of a particular mindset.
That's right.
You see, in other words, when people talk about democracy, and they tell you, well, it's one man, one vote.
Mm.
Well, that's not African democracy. African democracy really is the participation of all the people for the benefit of the majority of the people.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's all about.
That's right.
But if you use the definition of the European, you will say that there's a democracy in the United States of America,
Right.
because people get a chance to vote.
That's right.
But you and I know that they don't even get the chance to vote, because people try to prevent them from voting,
Mm-hmm. Yep.
especially African Americans.
That's
Lots
right.
of other people also
That's right.
who want to prevent them from voting because they belong to this party or that party or the other party.
Right.
So what is democracy then, apart from a word and
That's
a
right.
definition?
That's right.
You see, and that's one of the major difference between African civilization and European civilization.
Right.
Now, again, definition of civilization
Right.
is civilizing of the human being
Right.
within society.
Right.
I don't think you can say that about European civilization,
Right.
because it does not tend to civilize human beings within society.
Society.
It tends to brutalize the majority of human beings,
That's right.
and only a privileged few
Benefit.
enjoy the fruits
That's
of the
right.
society.
That's right.
So we cannot, in the broad sense, call it a civilization. We can
Right.
call it an industrial civilization,
Right.
if we wish to. We can even call it a scientific civilization.
Right.
But it is based on scientific materialism and industrialization.
That's right.
It is based on intellect and the knowing of things and the definition of things.
Right.
Now, the knowing of things and the definition of things is different from the full experience of things.
Right.
Now, you and I are sitting here. I'm experiencing you, you're experiencing me. In
Right.
that sense, around my dining table. You can be thinking of what you're going to be doing later on.
Right.
I can be thinking of my wife who is in Florida and say, gee, I wish I was with my wife. Or something
That's
like
right.
that. That's the thought process and the idea that can be disconnected from the actual experience of here and now.
Now.
The African experience is here and now.
Right.
The European experience is the thought process, the idea, it's the concept, it's
Right.
the definition, it's the characterization,
Right.
it's the knowledge of things.
Right.
This thing consists of this part and that part and that part and that part. And if you put A together with B and put together with C and D, you have this thing.
Right.
So Europeans have accumulated a vast amount of knowledge and a vast amount of facts about things.
Right.
But knowing about things is different from the true experience.
Experience of things.
In other words, I can define an apple for you.
That's right.
I can say an apple is red or pink or whatever color we want to call it. It's more or less round. It grows on a tree. And, and let's say I stop there. I mean, you might pick up a cricket ball and say, wow, this is round and it's red or something like that. This
Right.
might be an apple.
Right.
The only way you will know what an apple is, not only if you see it, but if you bite into it and taste it. This is an apple because
That's
it's
right.
crunchy and
Right.
I taste it and it's
Right.
sweet. So it's experience.
That's right.
It's what is the experience, and it's, this now is like Ubuntu.
That's right. Ubuntu. That's correct.
Because you are, I am.
I am.
Because I am, we
We
are.
are.
Because we can experience
That's
each other
correct.
at that level.
That is so correct.
Not because of a definition,
That's
which
right.
could define you differently from me.
Right.
You could say that, okay, you're this age and I'm that age. You're this feet tall, I'm that feet tall.
Right.
You weigh so and so, and I weigh so and so,
Right.
etc., etc.
Right.
And we come up with a definition of Ugo.
That's right.
But that doesn't mean I know Ugo.
That's right. But but even with the definition that you just gave of democracy, even within the American context, it tells you one man, one vote. But it doesn't tell you about the other things, the other areas where they hide some men and some from voting. So now that I was speaking to a group of individuals before, and then we're talking about when they say America is a beacon of democracy, America is a symbol, America is a democratic country, and I'm looking, is it truly a democratic world? And I said, okay, let's look back. When they said that, when they thought America was a beautiful democratic country, who were the people benefiting? Just like what you said. It started with white male landowners. They were the ones. They were the only ones participating, benefiting from this democracy. So that's why the world thought that it was a good democracy. Because yes, it's the same people. They had something in common. But they did not say about the vast majority of Americans that were denied the right to vote. The women, the African Americans, all of them, they were all denied the right to vote. But it was still functioning because, like you said, a few white men were benefiting. And then all they were shouting about, it was a perfect system because it benefited them. It was a perfect system because you did not give the voice to the voiceless. You didn't give them opportunity to say anything. So you give the impression Now, American democracy is facing the real test because those people that were voiceless, that you didn't even consider as even equals, are now getting the right. Suddenly, they're getting the right. So you are fighting them. You are trying to stop them from voting. That is what a shame, it is. That is why when they pass the laws, I was telling my director before on our way here that you see the Roe v. Wade that they're talking about, when the Supreme Court, made that interpretation of the law 50 plus years ago, why didn't the Congress codify it? Why did they let it hang it so that the Supreme Court, that is not their job to make laws, will someday, when you have a Supreme Court that is tilted like it is now, will translate, go back the way they want it, like Justice Clarence Thomas and the rest of them, what they want. That is what they gave, what they believe in, So why is Congress waiting? And I was digging, and I said, why didn't they do that? Because, like what I was trying to say earlier, minorities started benefiting from the law. It became, everybody. So all of a sudden they are changing it. But I think this is going to exploit America more. I like what happened now because now they're going to go back to the drawing board and enact the law to protect abortion and to protect, a woman's right to choose.
Let's just look at what we talked about and saying democracy and voting and so on and so forth. Okay, it's all well and good to define democracy.
Right.
But are you experiencing democracy?
There you go. Or who is experiencing it?
There's a difference between the definition
and who is experiencing
and the experience.
It. Right.
You see, and the definition very often then becomes law.
Right.
Okay? Democracy is voting.
Right.
It allows you to vote. Okay, so then you have voting rights.
Right.
Then you have voting rights, and some people can take away those rights, and some people can deny those rights.
That's right.
Can say the right, and you say the same thing with abortion.
Right.
You can say, okay, we should have abortions. Okay,
right.
Certain people experience abortions, but that idea of an abortion is
right.
all written down in law.
Right.
That the Supreme Court says this is the law.
This is the law. And it shouldn't
be. And then you can no longer experience it.
Yes.
You see what I'm saying? So the law and the ideas and the concepts are separated from the reality of the experience and the acts
right.
of people.
Right.
Whereas in an African context, going all the way back,
right,
and we can go back to the 42, negative confessions of Ma'at or declarations of innocence.
Right.
Okay, it's about your behavior as a person.
Right.
Not about what you believe.
That's right.
Not about what you think.
That's right.
Not about what you subscribe to.
That's right.
Not about how many books you've read.
That's right.
Not whether you have a degree or not.
That's right.
But how have you behaved as a human being in terms of your brother or your sister?
That's right.
I have given bread to the hungry.
That's right.
I have taken care of my brother's widow.
Right.
Okay. I have given somebody a boat so that he can travel.
Right.
I have not committed any crimes against the gods or whatever or within the society. It's all about behavior.
Right.
And this is how you create heaven.
Yeah.
Because heaven is the perfect behavior of the human being who understands himself as a natural person.
That's correct.
This is born into him. It's not determined by definitions and laws.
That's right.
There is a human being. What did Jesus say about the lilies of the field? If you plant a lily, you're going to get a lily.
Yes.
You're not going to get an oak tree.
That's right.
If you have a human being and you have the appropriate environment for the human being,
you're going to thrive.
You're going to get a loving, peaceful person who can get along with his peers and will work for the best of each other.
Right.
because the essence of the human being is spiritual.
That's right.
It's not physical.
That's right.
It's one with source.
Did you hear that? I
so
told
that,
you
so
that.
that it brings all of us together.
That's right.
African people are spiritual people.
Right.
Everywhere we go, even when they took everything away from us.
That's
in,
right.
In Jamaica, you have more churches than anywhere else in
That's
the world.
right. That's right.
You go to all of these African countries.
Yeah. In Nigeria, have churches
We're very spiritual
every block. Yeah.
Okay. Now, our spirituality has been
Yeah. Twisted.
tainted or
Yeah.
twisted by religions,
Religions. Yeah.
which is supposed to bind us back to our true self.
That's right.
But that's not the case.
That's correct.
Because it has been corrupted by misinterpretations that go all the way back
Yeah. That's correct.
to the Hebrews who were in Egypt,
Right.
and then the Romans who transformed Christianity from its Gnosticism, and only the Eastern Christians have maintained
Right.
some of that connection to the true African spirituality,
Right.
which is based on meditation and understanding of who you are.
Right.
You see, that's how you mature as a human being,
Right.
when you have self-knowledge.
Right.
You don't mature as a human being when you're 17 and you can vote.
That's correct.
In your original culture,
Mm-hmm.
you matured as a human being by going through certain rituals,
Yes, certain
by
rights.
going through certain experiences
That's correct.
that showed that you had reached a certain level of understanding within yourself
That's
of
correct.
who you were and your relationship to the society.
Right.
It was not a number.
Right. Right.
You did not become an adult with responsibility in your society because you got to be 17 or you could vote. Or
That's
you could
correct.
be
It's
21 or
experience. Yes.
whatever. It's your experience and your manifestation
There you go.
of your true humanity
Right.
within society, within your family. As you know,
Right.
everything is based on family: father, mother, child, ancestors, going all
Right.
the way back. The ancestors are always there,
Right.
because we believe in the spiritual world.
Right.
We come from spirit.
Right.
We go back to spirit. We believe in
Right.
reincarnation. And
Right.
so I'm saying that a long way around
Mm.
is that we have a different way of looking at things than Europeans, who look at things from solely this perspective of
Right.
the intellect and knowing things as facts and manipulating facts through logic.
Right.
Okay, and that has its value.
Yep.
But then there's nothing to direct it in terms of how you relate that
Right.
within a society. That's very much an individualistic thing.
That is correct.
I know 10,000 facts and I get a PhD.
Right.
But how does those 10,000 facts,
Relate to your experience.
not only that, but help me to live a life within my community?
That's right.
Because those 10,000 facts that I know are different from the 10,000 facts that the other guy knows. Because he knows that about beetles. He knows his 10,000 facts about etymology
Right.
or some other ology,
Right.
because that's what his PhD is in.
That's right.
So you have all this fragmentation of so-called knowledge, and there's nothing that holds it together.
Hold it together.
There's no big picture.
Right.
How did it all come about? Nobody knows. Again, that's the basis of scientific materialism.
Right. Right.
You know an enormous amount about how this pen was manufactured,
Right.
but then you don't know anything about the paper, or you don't know anything about the computer. But there's somebody who created that computer, knows all about the computers, but doesn't know anything about history.
Right.
And so on and so forth and so on. So knowledge is compartmentalized.
That's correct.
And not only is it not integrated in terms of knowledge out there, but it's not integrated in terms of the person.
The person. Yeah.
The only worldview that the person ends up having is what CNN gives them,
That's right.
New York Times gives them,
That's
Washington Post gives them,
Right.
Al Jazeera, BBC, or
Right,
whatever.
right.
They tell you what to think.
That's right.
They tell you what's going to happen next.
Right.
So you're enslaved by your mind that has been created
Right.
by the people who are at the top of the pyramid
Right.
and benefit from the system that we've just talked about.
Right.
So we have to understand that that system is not designed to benefit,
Benefit us. Yes. Earlier on our way coming here.
So we have to create our own.
That's correct. On our way coming again, I was telling my director, I just asked him a question because there are certain things every day I keep thinking. I keep asking myself, in America, the white man has all the opportunities. He has all the opportunities, but yet he's very bitter. Very bitter, especially when it comes to black people. And I was asking the producer here that why is that? He has all the opportunities, but yet he doesn't sleep. Yes, he's constantly planning how to hold these people down. Why doesn't he just find great opportunities, make peace with them? Does he always have to be bitter? And then he designs a system, like we're using the Second Amendment. I said, okay. He said, a human, every citizen should have, when you get a certain age, should have the right to bear arms. I said, but then they also go behind and work towards denying other people the same right that they think everybody has. Why do I say this? I'll use an example, and it's happened severally, like you talked about experience. I'm speaking from my experience. Every time a policeman stops you on the road as a black man, he is finding a way to criminalize you. And I kept asking myself, why is that? Why am I being asked all these questions because of a broken tail light? That ordinarily can say, hey, Mr. Ugo, your light is broken. Please go fix it. Or here is a summons. If you fix it, come back to zone and we dismiss this. Or even pay. And that is the end of it. Now he wants to know who my grandfather is, who my grandmother is, where I'm coming from, what I had for breakfast, what I drank, stuff like that. And he's pushing me. Do you know what he's trying to drive at? To get me to criminalize me. Because that is the whole point. And I was telling the producer again, that if he criminalizes, where he's heading to? If I get criminalized, have criminal record, I can't hold a certain job. I'll be disqualified from bearing arms. That is the same thing that everybody has right. I can't qualify to become a policeman like him to carry gun. I cannot vote. You see how many rights he's taking away from me from just pulling me over for a broken tail light. Even if I don't have a criminal record. So he creates one. He charges me disorderly conduct. He throws, okay, I did this, I did that. So at what point will they stop? Why are they so bitter? The black man doesn't cause anything. The fight is always thrown at the black man. How do we as black people curb this? How do we solve this? How can we, African Americans, I've asked people these questions, and Africans in diaspora, how can we work together? There are lots of good things about African Americans. There are also lots of good things from the Africans in the diaspora, Africans like African Caribbeans, Africans from the continent. Why can't we work together and pick all those good things, all our qualities? The reason why kids from Nigeria or raised by Nigerian parents continue to consistently maintain the highest level in education, higher than any other immigrant group, including, they don't even want to talk about Americans because they are higher than Americans as well. What makes them? We need to know that. We need to teach that. We need to get all people of African descent to learn that. How can we do that? Because this thing, there's a systematic effort, movement to wipe the black man out of the face of the earth. So we need to be serious about this. It's not just about my kids being successful in school and then it's okay by me. No. They're still going to be there in the world. The same policeman is still going to pull him over someday. The same is still going to go look for a job. Somebody is still working to criminalize him. How do we come there? How can we work together? How can we get this thing? Because it's too stressful for a black man to exist. Not just in America. In Britain, the same thing. It's like they planned it. So what is your take? How do we curb this? How can we work together? Because another thing they did, they got the African Americans thinking and believing that those from the mother continent, I'm going to use the Africans, don't like them. They don't hate them. It's their forefathers that sold you into slavery. That kind of a thing. And then they tell the Africans that the African Americans don't like you, and they sow this seed of division and all that, so you have them fighting. How can we look beyond that? so that we can work better. Because I think there's strength in numbers. If we can work, African Americans are gradually becoming the minority race. Ethnic group in America, this Hispanic taking over. But I think if they work well with other Africans in the diaspora that are resident in America, they can become a good, if not first majority ethnic group, at least second. So how do we work better, to get better?
Well, I think your program is named well, Common Sense Africa.
Thank you.
I think we have to use our common sense. Right?
That's right.
But we need knowledge, and then we can use our common sense.
Common sense is actually not common,
Exactly right. That's why we need knowledge.
Yes. To
use
start applying common sense.
And this is why I've sort of gone back in history to show the consistency of the group that has oppressed us over time. So that the thing to learn from that is that the group is not going to change.
No.
You'll find that
it will even get worse.
The system will change superficially, as I mentioned.
Yeah.
It went from a system of slavery with that degree of barbarism. It went to colonization with slightly less barbarism. And then it has morphed into neocolonialism and globalization, but it's the same plantation.
That's correct.
The same people who are in control.
The same intentions and objectives.
So to believe that the system is going to change to the extent that it's going to accept you at the same level at which it accepts, quotes, its own people, which it doesn't accept them all the same anyway.
Right.
As you know, it also has gradations, and they used to be more significant before World War II, or just shortly after.
Right.
But as you know, the darkest skin, the South European,
such
as the Italian and the Portuguese, they were not considered as wonderful
Aryan.
as the Nordic Aryan group and all of that nonsense. But my point is that to believe that the system is going to change is being quite ignorant and certainly not using your common sense. If you understand the facts of history,
yes,
you must understand history as it has shown itself over, let's just say 500 years, but it goes back at least 2,000 years.
Right.
So, what that means then is that you have to create your own system.
Right.
And not only do you have to create your own system, but you can't create a system that mirrors the system that was created by the people who oppressed you.
Right.
Because if you do, then you have to find another group of people for you to oppress. If you create the same system that they have created and say, this is the model. Like what's his name, Fukuyama, wrote and said it was the end of civilization or something like that was the neoliberal Western, system.
Right.
No, it's not even the beginning of civilization, as I tried to show.
Right.
Because it's based on intellect and mind, which is based on sensation of things.
Right.
Okay, we have 5 senses, and we have the mind, which is the intellect and logic.
Right.
That uses those 5 sensory input
Right.
to manipulate, so that the individual can gain something,
Right.
what he desires.
That's correct.
Or if it's something that he doesn't desire, he can push it away.
Right.
Or he can ignore it. Those are the 3 responses
Right.
based on sensory input. It's like, dislike, or I don't really care.
Right.
So that's the superficial level
Right.
of being stuck
Right.
at the level of sensory input
Right.
and mental reaction,
Right.
and not going any deeper into an understanding of the human being.
Correct.
It's being stuck at the level of the human animal. There's a difference between a human animal and a human being in terms of my definition.
Of course, I agree with you.
Because the human being is somebody that has been civilized and therefore able to live peacefully within a society.
Yes.
The human animal is one who simply reacts to his animal instincts in terms of animal input, of sensory input, and responds based on is individual
I like,
desires,
I like, I
likes or
like,
dislikes
I
or
like that.
ignorance.
I'm gonna start using that.
Okay, so we don't want to copy that
Yes,
because that's not a civilized way to live. That's not the way our ancestors lived.
of course.
Our
Yes,
ancestors had that deeper understanding of what it meant to be human.
that's
Because
correct.
don't forget, we were there at the beginning
Right,
when God made us, whether you want to call it God or you want to call it the quantum
right,
soup or the unified field or the Akashic field, whatever you want to call it.
right.
But clearly, there's something other than physical matter.
That's correct.
And clearly, that is consciousness and it's awareness and it's also an energy. It's not just energy that slow moving energy
Right,
that is matter, which was discovered, shall we say, and defined by Einstein with E equals mc squared. But even the scientists have gone further than that.
right,
And they've gone now to subatomic particles and below the particles, and they've found at the quantum level
right,
that consciousness is of primary importance.
right. So
And that's where they're stuck
that's
because they
correct.
don't have a way to deal with consciousness
That's
because
correct.
they've always called consciousness as something secondary to mental neuronal activity
Right.
because they have not had the experience of their spiritual
That's
selves.
correct. Yep. So
Even the religion, and we can get into that
that's
another
right.
time.
That's right. So what's your? I'm glad you put all that into perspective. Now, what you said, because it sounds like they will continue in their quest to keep you oppressed, to keep you, second class or third class, whatever they can. So it is now left for us to, kind of devise or find a way for our own survival. How we can work together, how we can work for our own benefit, because so that way we'll be strategic on how we combat or how we fight them. So now we as black people, we don't have to continue to depend on them or to wait for them to do. We have to take the bull by the horns and begin to do things ourselves. Begin to find how we can live in peace amongst ourselves so that we don't learn, like you said, their way of oppression and then begin to exhibit our anger amongst ourselves. That's basically what we are doing. So on that note, Doc, I mean, what do you think? How can you? I wanted to assess, the. Let's go back to Pan Africanism. I wanted to just do an assessment. How far, or what are the gains? What work needs to be done to move the Pan Africanist movement better? How we, especially from the African diaspora point of view.
Well, we have made certain gains. Obviously we have independence. We have an African Union, which was, built on the concept of African unity, and we need to move towards the United States of Africa, which is a federated state, and we need to integrate the diaspora into the African continent as the sixth
This is
region.
column.
We have 5 regions in Africa. We need the diaspora, the 6th region. Those are things you might say at that sort of political, government level. But, it's important for us to understand, one, the history that we've talked about, the differences that exist between that system that has been developed over time and the system that we have inherited from our ancestors, which most of us no longer understand. So then we need to go back to that and educate ourselves. And that's one of the keys in terms of us coming together. Because many of us, I would say, instinctively, shall we say, recognize our spiritual essence and recognize that that is what unites us as human beings, especially to our fellow, African people.
Right.
And that's why we're a very religious people. But we have to understand that the basis of that religion is the spiritual experience.
Right.
It's not a dogma, or it's not about, one person who was born at some point in time.
Right.
And it's supposedly some sort of hybrid between God and man.
Yeah.
Because we are God made us, and we can
This
experience
image.
our divinity within ourselves.
That's correct.
So, from the Christian perspective, stating that Christ was somehow unique does not make any sense at all intellectually. Because then how could he save us if he was different from us?
From us, yeah.
So that's a misunderstanding of the African spirituality from which it came.
That's right.
You see, because Christ or Karas is really Heru in terms of the Kemetic religion,
Right.
Who was the anointed one,
Right.
and who was the spiritual essence of man,
Correct.
functioning as man should function within society,
Right.
Which is a manifestation of life.
Right.
You see, as you experience it,
Right.
not as you think about it,
Right.
but as you experience it, and that's always in the here of now. So I don't want to get too deep into that, but so we need an educational process then that takes us back to that, and when you get back to that, then you can also develop the social structures
Right.
relative to that. Because and again, it's there in terms of Ubuntu.
Right.
If I am you and you are me, then we create a society
That's right.
where you benefit as much as I benefit
right.
from the society.
Right.
And each one of us works towards the benefit of the greater good
Right.
for everyone.
Right.
And my working per se is a manifestation of my life.
Right.
That's why I'm creating this, and that's the only way you're going to get good leaders who say, this is the manifestation of my life. I can't do anything different from this because this is who I am.
That's right.
But you have to get down to the nub of who am I?
That's
You
correct.
see what I mean? And this is what you have to experience
Right.
individually and in some sense collectively.
Right.
So that you're working for the benefit not just of yourself as an individual, but for yourself as an individual who only has meaning within the community.
Right.
Because you're not separate. You might be physically separate, but you're not spiritually separate.
That's right. That's
So
right.
you manifest within the community that unity. So then now, as far as voting rights are concerned, nobody's going to try to prevent any person from voting.
Right.
Because each individual is supposed to share in those rights. They're
Right.
communal rights. They're not just individual rights, they're communal rights.
Right.
They're rights that are guaranteed
Right.
for everybody within the society. And if you look at that, that's the way of our ethnicities, that's the way of our tribes, that's the way of our empires, that's the way of our civilizations.
Right.
You see, it was to benefit everybody.
Right.
And all we have to do is go back to that. Whether you're Igbo or you're Yoruba or you're Ashanti, come out of the Songhai kingdom or whatever, and you go all the way back to Kemet and so on, or you're Zulu, so it's there.
Right.
We have to recreate it. Now, granted, you have to use a certain amount of modernity,
Right.
meaning that you have to be knowledgeable about technology, etc.
Right.
But for example, we've talked a little bit about education, but let's look at medicine.
Right.
No, there's a Western way of doing medicine,
Right.
but there are other ways of doing medicine. The Chinese have a different way of doing medicine.
Africans have a different way.
The Indians have another way of doing medicine.
Right.
So what's wrong with the Africans? The Africans have had a way of doing medicine, but
They allowed it to.
our leaders denigrate our traditional healers and traditional medicine.
That's right.
Nonsense.
That's right.
Everybody has to
See, it's voodoo.
go to medical school in London or wherever or whatever,
Yeah.
and come back with all this equipment and all this thing to treat diseases. But nobody knows how to manifest health or to make people healthy.
That's right.
Because that's what medical care is supposed to be all about. It's supposed to be all about health care, not just the treatment of disease, which is a Western system.
Right.
Because the Western system is so messed up
Right.
that it creates disease.
That's right.
So your doctors have to treat disease and treat symptoms.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? But,
That's right,
but an
but
optimal system does not create disease people.
That's right.
It creates healthy people.
That's right.
Because that's the way you're supposed to be.
That's right.
If you look at the lilies in the field,
That's
they're healthy.
That's right.
You know what I mean?
That's right. I'm going to leave that. You're the expert in that. You're a physician, so it is within your profession, your right to discuss. I don't have any opinion on that, but I do agree with you. So I'm gonna bring us back so that we can also we'll wrap up and in this episode. But it's very exciting, talking to you. So, but I want to just one thing that I want to talk about, so that I want to reiterate. I want you to talk more about how our viewers can help to support the movement again. To make sure that your dad get the clemency or exoneration that he deserves. So I know it is important for our viewers to talk to their congressman or congress people or their senators, and then push them, let them put that pressure anywhere you see like a petition that they're floating around in favor of that. Please do sign it and all that. So if you can talk more about that, and then I want to ask you, because I'm still amazed by your strength. You're going to be 89 in August. What is your secret? I want to tell us.
Good. That
I
was
know, I
supposed to
know,
be a
I
secret.
know, I know.
That
But
was
I had to let it go because I had to bring it out there because I want to know the secret so that when I grow up, I want to be like you.
Do
So
you
so
know? Do
so,
you
so
know why it's called a secret?
talk to us. Tell us about, again. The first is, tell us about how our viewers can support the movement.
Yeah.
For
Well,
exoneration
yeah.
of the great Marcus Garvey,
Yeah. Well,
and then
basically, I would say at this time really is to do it through, political pressure, whatever political pressure that you have.
right,
Some of your listeners, are good in terms of Facebook, social media, and so on and so forth. You can spread that kind of information around in terms of the injustice that was meted out to
right,
Marcus Garvey. What I would like people to do is to read as much as they can about Marcus Garvey and let's see, because, like, for example, people know about Black Wall Street,
right,
which was, that area where, African Americans had built up their own community,
right, right,
wealthy with property, businesses, and so on and so forth. And it was burnt down by a white mob. This was 1920.
right.
That was the same time my father was charged with using the mails to defraud.
Yeah,
So, and again, that was fraudulent, meaning that the trial itself was a political event with no evidence but an empty envelope and perjured witnesses, etc.
right.
But you can see it's a system that would burn down a Black Wall Street and just using that as
Right,
as,
right,
as a
right.
name,
I know about,
and
yeah.
at the same time would destroy the Black Star Line
That's
Shipping
like,
Company
I know.
and destroy a movement that had 6 million
6 million
people
people.
worldwide.
It was systematic. It was planned.
Exactly right. It's
Yeah.
part of the system.
Yeah.
And you come 100 years later, and there's been no compensation, no justice in terms of reparatory justice of any kind
Right.
for any of those insults to our development. And then people will say, "Well, why can't you pull yourself up by your own bootstraps?" Every time we do that, they
You
break
pull
the
that down.
bootstraps.
That's right. Yeah. That's what they do.
So yes, I think I would like your listeners to get involved in spreading the message of Marcus Garvey and speaking to their political operatives and simply educating themselves about it, because it's an ongoing movement. Pan
That's
Africanism
right.
is an
That's
ongoing
right.
movement.
Yes. So, yeah, viewers, well, you've heard it. So do support this movement. Do support, it is now, I think, the stage where we are now is to use political pressure. Political pressure simply means speak to your Congress people, your senators, and, the activists. Tell them there's need to get exoneration for the great Marcus Garvey. So,
And
Doctor,
also, you need to elect the appropriate people.
and then you need to elect the appropriate people that will do your bidding. Know that there's you, black people, my black brothers and sisters. Know that there's a system, there's a systematic process that is consistently working against us. So we have to unite. We have to be tactical and systematic about how we fight this. So on that note, Dr. Julius Garvey, thank you for this opportunity. But before we go, I know
I thought
I
was
want
gonna keep
that secret. So now I want to know. I know you like your favorite. You like ackee and sawfish and all that. Is that the reason why you I mean, you look good. I must tell you, look good for your age. I was amazed
Yeah.
when I found out that you'll soon be 89 and all that stuff. What is the secret? How can we learn from you? We want to learn. Remember now, we're
Well,
brothers, we're Africans. We want to help each other. Tell us what we need to do.
okay. The first secret was I chose my parents well.
Okay.
That's the first secret.
You
So,
chose your parents well.
so
Okay.
I got the right DNA.
Okay.
So with the right DNA, unless you mess up, then things are going to go right.
That's
okay?
right.
So I have not messed up.
Right.
So but basically, it's a matter of being moderate, shall we say, in terms of how you live,
That's right.
and not to indulge yourself in terms of your senses, whether it's
Right.
alcohol, smoking, drugs, and all of those things. Stay
Right.
away from that. But I think just one thing I want to mention, and 70 to 80% of the diseases that are being treated at the present time are lifestyle diseases
Right.
that cause the greatest mortality.
Right.
And these are, heart attacks
Right.
and strokes, cardiovascular diseases, pulmonary diseases, lung cancers, etc., etc. 80% of those could be prevented or avoided or ameliorated by a plant-based diet and the appropriate lifestyle, because those are lifestyle diseases.
Right.
No, they're being treated. The symptoms are being treated,
Right.
but the diseases are not being treated.
Ah.
You see? So
Okay.
if you adopt a plant-based diet, and if you adopt a moderate lifestyle,
Right.
meaning in terms of drinking water, I'm not drinking excessive alcohol, getting enough rest.
Right.
You have to understand also to be at peace with yourself.
There you go.
And maybe I'll give you this last secret. Is I meditate every day. I've done that for more than 40 years.
Oh, great.
So that I have come to an understanding of who I am. I'm at peace with myself. I think when you do that, then you no longer have anxiety. You no longer have your stress hormones going through your system.
There you go.
But you have all the other joyful hormones going
That's
through your
right. That's
system.
right.
You see? So that maintains your health
Thank
and
you.
your equilibrium.
Thank you very much. Well, to our viewers, you got it. I know you weren't expecting to receive this life-saving advice that Dr. Julius Garvey has given us. So I'm going to start practicing it because I want to look like him when I grow up. So I am. To the viewers again, thank you for joining us. Thank you for being part of this program. Thank you for the support that you're giving. So you've heard a lot from the living legend himself. You've heard about how to help this cause, the movement to get exoneration for the great Marcus Garvey. So keep doing your work. I know you've heard me. I know you're going to do what we want you to do because it's very important. So and again, as you watch, as you listen to us, please do share. And when you share, it's very important. When those ads pop up on YouTube, please don't skip them. They are very important there. That's how our partners support us, and that's how we pay our bills. Thank you again very much, and God bless you all.